I was shocked like everyone else.
Who sent me the message? I think it was Les or Philip Albert.
I think I heard from Steve Ray.
That I got a phone call from Dennis Martin, who was very, very concerned.
My boss. And he said, "Oh, Tom, I'm sorry to tell you."
I was in town with my wife. It was Christmas shopping. Dennis called me and says, "Listen, something has happened with Pavel."
V 9 večer vlastně mi volal kamarád a řekl mi, že kousek jakoby od nás, že leží někdo a má na sobě jakoby věci z Newcastlu. Ať se tam prostě zajedu podívat.
But you see this road here comes up there. When there was a home game, so when Newcastle were playing at home, Pavel would come on this road. This is the road he would drive all the way to the St James Park from home. And I used to ask him about that, and he used to say that drive for him was very important because he was getting his head right, he was thinking about the game, he was focusing. And this drive down here, you know, you were probably building your adrenaline up and stuff like that, you know, when you were going to a big game, you know.
Pavel Srníček přestoupil do tehdy druholigového Newcastle United na jaře 1991 z Baníku Ostrava za 350 000 liber, což byla na tehdejší poměry v Československu vysoká částka. Raduje se jedna historka, že na jednom z prvních tréninků tehdejší manažer Jim Smith stál vedle Paula Montgomeryho, skauta, který Pavla doporučil, a Jim Smith údajně řekl: "Mám pocit, že jsme podepsali Drákulu. Ten kluk se bojí centrů." V angličtině se pro centrované míče používá termín cross, tedy stejný jako pro slovo kříž.
I got a chance to see Pavel from his very, very first games at St James's Park. And my early memories of Pavel often made me laugh because Pavel Srníček's style and the way that he played football were quite unique. So in Newcastle, it's quite a renowned area for being very cold, which Pavel would be used to, you know, being from the Czech Republic. But he chose to wear tracksuit bottoms as a goalkeeper, which was quite a rare sight. So that made him stand out. He had a very distinctive black mullet hairstyle, and he had a tendency in the early days to come rushing out of his goal. So what he would be doing is he would be playing like a sweeper, playing like a defender, not like a goalkeeper. And it used to frustrate Newcastle fans in those early days. But Pavel was a character and he slowly started to win the fans over.
Musíme si uvědomit, že Pavlovi tehdy bylo pouhých 23 let. On pocházel z chudých poměrů a ta změna, ať už fotbalová nebo životní, byla obrovská.
Pamatuju si z toho to, že jsem tam byl 3 měsíce v kuse, což bylo i pro mě jako brutální změna oproti tomu, co jsme měli doma, a nebavím se teda teď o stadionu, ale i to zázemí, obchody a tak dále. Takže jsme vlastně 3 měsíce prožili jakoby na tom začátku spolu a ten fotbal, který tady byl už v té době, tak byl pro mě úplně něčím jiným, než jsem do té doby zažil.
Postupně se začal prosazovat a v sezóně 1992-93 už se stal jedničkou a výraznou měrou přispěl k postupu do Premier League.
Největší asi podsta jeho byla to, že vlastně když postoupili, tak dostal triko Pavel i se Geordie.
After we'd beaten Leicester 7-1 at St James's Park, 6-0 up at half-time, live on ITV, that Lee Clark's brother had basically created this T-shirt, and giving it to Lee Clark in the dressing room before the match. And when it came to the presentation of the trophy and going and doing the lap of honour around St James's Park, Lee gave Pavel the T-shirt. Pavel put it on.
Well, from anywhere to be called to be an adopted Geordie is a huge honour, and I think to sing Pavel as a Geordie, and it's still, you know, it's still sung to this day. It shows you how much he meant to the people of this football club and this area, not just the club but the wider community as well.
The main characteristics of a Geordie are warm, friendly, hard-working, industrious, but ultimately it's, you know, it is an area of working class people, and people in this area go out, you know, and work 6 days a week, and on the 7th day they watch Newcastle United.
Ostrava s tím Newcastlem má hodně společného, jak už že je taková šedá trochu, tak i si myslím, že ti lidé jsou nám dost podobní, kteří tady jsou. Myslím si, že tohle mu asi jako hodně vyhovovalo.
Sezonu po postupu začal jako jednička, ale poté ho Kevin Keegan posadil na lavičku a vrátil ho do branky až po 5 měsících, nicméně tu sezonu už dochytal. Newcastle jako nováček skončil na skvělém 3. místě. O rok později se sice propadl na 6. příčku, ale Pavel jako jasná jednička odchytal prakticky celou sezonu s výjimkou 4 utkání, do kterých nenastoupil.
Pavel were how everyone loved him in the dressing room, how he integrated into a really energetic dressing room, and he loved a laugh and a joke, and he loved to, but he was a real serious hard worker.
A very genuine person, always smiling, always trying his best for the club, for his mates. You know, he's the kind of guy in the dressing room who could have expressed himself when he was not happy.
He was a brilliant shot stopper. He was, I mean, there were so many times where after training we used to stay behind, and I did when we were having finishing sessions. And although it was nice and relaxed and funny at times, there was always a serious part, because no matter what his age was, he wanted to get better and wanted to improve and always wanted to be the best version of himself. And he was a brilliant professional. He really was. He was never ever late.
Yeah, but after every session, we were doing free kicks, we were doing crossing, volley, we were doing penalties. We were, in fact, we worked on all set pieces. Set pieces, it was always, we put a wall, and he was staying in goal, and he was always with a laugh. But the problem is we had to end up in the bath, and Pavel didn't like the bath.
I think very much he was ahead of time with regards to Premier League goalkeepers at the time. A lot of British, you know, English and British goalkeepers at the time. So to introduce a continental goalkeeper who had a different physicality, different athleticism. We used to play head tennis on a badminton court, and I used to play with Budgie, the coach, against Keegan McDermott. But Pav could get his leg over the net. You think of a badminton net, so you know, you'd flick it up, and he could get his leg up and just smash the ball into the floor from 6-7 foot in the air. It was phenomenal, and he used to enjoy the fact that he could do that. Kevin Keegan and Terry McDermott couldn't do that at their age, and I certainly couldn't do it at the young age of 18.
Nohybal byl zase úplně specifický sport, který vlastně Pavel dělal jako všechny sporty na 200%. Úžasné bylo to, že vlastně smečoval levou i pravou nohou úplně stejně. Takže kdo ten nohybal trochu hraje a ví, tak on překročil pravou a smečoval levou a opačně. Dokázal ty soupeře jako brutálně zmást.
A stejně jak byl oblíbený u spoluhráčů, tak možná ještě větší respekt měl u fanoušků.
He got on with everyone. The Newcastle fans loved him.
But Kevin had a unique way of dealing with supporters. He always valued supporters, and he allowed open training sessions. So you used to have the likes of Pavel Srníčka, Kevin Sheedy, Rob Lee, Brian Kilcline, all training at Maiden Castle, and sometimes in excess of 3,000 supporters standing around the training pitch watching them play football. And after the game, the training finished and Pavel would, like the rest of the players, have to sign autographs. He must have posed over the years for hundreds, if not thousands.
When he meets somebody at a petrol station or, or in a supermarket, and he gives them time, even in the limited English he had at the start, word quickly spreads of what a good person, not just a good goalkeeper, but what a good human being he was.
V sezóně 1995-96 byl Newcastle United velmi blízko mistrovského titulu. Už na konci ledna vedl o 12 bodů před Manchesterem United. Straky hráli velmi atraktivní ofenzivní fotbal, proto se jim přezdívalo The Entertainers, tedy baviči, jenomže to bylo něco, na co vlastně doplatili.
I'll tell you a little story, don't tell anybody, but we were actually planning the victory parade. We thought we'd won a 12-point game. Never thought we were going to lose. That victory parade was being planned down the last bus.
I think a lack of good decision in some games. When I say that is about when you are up in the game sometimes, and we were so used to you win the game, you're going to score another one and another one and another one. So you get away from the team to come back into the game. So if you are 2-1 or 3-1 up, instead of saying, well, okay, we're going to put midfield, take off forwards, just to make sure that we'll be more able to keep the ball and be strong at the back in terms of defensive side, defensive-wise. We didn't do that. We knew, we thought that we could always score one more goal.
Ukázkovým příkladem je památný zápas proti Liverpoolu z kraje dubna 1996. Newcastle dvakrát vedl, nejprve 2-1, poté 3-2 a stejně ten zápas prohrál.
Now Ian Rush, Barnes again, Rush just wouldn't sit up for him, but here was Collymore!
So we lost against Liverpool 4-3, and we lost against Man United 1-0 at home.
And it comes for Cantona!
Newcastle závěr ligy nezvládl a titul slavil Manchester United.
If we'd won the title, there'd been statues to them all. There would have been lots of little boys running around the city called Pavel as well now, who would probably be 29, 30-year-old.
Pavel v týmu neměl jednoduchou situaci, bojoval s Shaqou Hyslopem o pozici jedničky a hlavně on sám necítil od Kevina Keegana takovou důvěru, jakou věřil, že si zaslouží.
Goalkeeper, they are a bit crazy sometimes. Huh? They are different. They are different. Goalkeepers, generally, they are different. And, especially in those moments, they were fighting with Shaka Hyslop for the place, for number one, so sometimes.
I don't think anybody does. You maybe come to terms with it in certain periods. But Pav backed himself. I think he knew, he had a confidence when he probably saw goalkeepers coming in who he didn't think were as good as him. He rightly had a problem with that, but his professionalism was second to none.
He used to hate it being on the bench, absolutely hate it. Because he used to say, joke, I can't remember how he put it, but I think he was talking about, we were saying, you should do a book, you could write a book, Pavel, about this, that, and he says, yeah, I'd probably call it Bench. But that's his humor,
V lednu 1997 Kevin Keegan skončil. A do klubu přišel Kenny Dalglish, se kterým si ale Pavel vůbec nepadl do oka. Měli spolu problémy. Navíc Dalglish si přivedl vlastního brankáře Shea Givena, kterému dával jednoznačně přednost a Pavel v sezóně odchytal jediný ligový zápas.
On vždycky říkal, dělej to, co chceš, aby to dělali jiní, takže se choval vždycky ke každému hezky. A myslím, že tady jakoby na ty dva, když to takhle shrnu, jakoby v Anglii, co vím, tak si myslím, že úplně ty vzpomínky neměl jako dobré. Myslím, že to popsal i ve své knížce jakoby docela detailně.
I think the most surprising story to come from the book was the relationship that he had with Kevin Keegan, because in those early days it was very positive, but as time went on and the team progressed, you know, Kevin chose to pick keepers who, in Pavel's mind, and I think a lot of supporters' minds, weren't as good as Pavel.
He had nothing against Sunderland. Sunderland tried to get him, you know, one time. He met Peter Reid. Peter Reid wanted to sign him, and Peter Reid was very embarrassed because he spoke to the money people in Sunderland, you know, above him, and they offered some derisory amount of money. He went back to Ostrava for a few months, and then he came back to Sheffield. Danny Wilson, who was the manager of Sheffield Wednesday, they were struggling because they didn't have a lot of money, so you know they were trying to buy bargain players and everything else. And when Pavel was there, they built up a good team actually.
Jenže po druhé sezóně Sheffield sestoupil a Pavel se v létě 2000 vydal do Itálie, konkrétně do týmu Brescia Calcio. A přes několik dalších štací, včetně půl roku v Portsmouthu a West Hamu, zažil Pavel v roce 2006 vysněný návrat do Newcastle.
When he came back, I was part of that. I had an agent I knew at the time helped Pav get the opportunity in Portugal at Beira-Mar, where he went over, and then I was injured at the time, and I was the person who called Pav to ask him if he would be interested in coming back, and I think he probably dropped everything at the time because he would love to come back. And
the only downside to it was that he was here on his own really. And his family should have been over here with him, really, in this house here. So he was living like a bachelor's life. And sometime Maxim came over a couple of times, but he came over with his granddad, who was one of the guys that lived in these flats. And Pavel took him under his wing, actually. He even used to, the young lads, him and Fraser Foster, who played for Southampton for a long time. They were good young keepers, and Pavel took them under his wing, and he used to do extra training just for them.
Pavel plnil roli třetího brankáře, ale den před Štědrým dnem se mu splnil sen, protože na poslední 4 minuty navíc na domácím stadionu St. James's Parku nahradil zraněného Shea Givena.
And listen to the noise when Pavel Srníček comes on for his first appearance in this his second spell. He'll today make his 150th league appearance for Newcastle and his 200th English career league appearance. And most importantly, his first Newcastle appearance since October 1997. Here he comes.
Ten aplaus byl prostě jako nepopsatelný a co se týká toho konce kariéry, tak si myslím, že to byla pro něho nejlepší tečka, kterou mohl zažít.
I can vividly remember where I was upstairs here in the stadium when he came on, and I had tears in my eyes. Not just at the reception he got an incredible reception and a well-deserved reception from the crowd, but just how much it would mean to him as well to go back on that pitch and how much he was loved. The reception, to hear them singing Pavel is a Geordie, and I can tell you exactly where I was. I had tears in my eyes, like I'm sure maybe even he did, but a lot of people in the stadium would have as well.
Po konci kariéry začal pracovat jako trenér brankářů ve Spartě, ale do Newcastlu se čas od času vracel. Naposledy v prosinci 2015 na křest knihy, kterou napsal.
Pavel came across, he was tired that week. He was tired by the end of the week, and it was because it was quite a busy schedule. He wanted to go and promote the book as much as he could. He'd finished work. He knew that after he'd finished this book tour that he would be going home for Christmas and he would be able to relax.
We went for a meal in a Chinese restaurant in town, On a Thursday, we say bye-bye on the hotel. And a Sunday, he was in coma.
The irony of where we started to train when I first met Pav was at Benwell, up in the west of the city. And it was a beautiful night, and I was coaching the boys, and the sun was going down in the west, and I just saw the silhouette of it was Pav, a big guy, just standing watching training. And I remember having a moment. I was coaching the boys. I was coaching young boys 100 yards away from where Pav had coached me, and there was Pav standing, and it was honestly silhouette, the sun behind him. It couldn't have been a better image. And he didn't, because I was coaching, and he messaged me after and said, "Stevie, you were coaching. I didn't want to disturb you," which was typical of him. And that's the last. Yeah, that's the last image I have of seeing Pav, and I would have loved to have had the opportunity to speak to him there, but that's an image that I'll never forget.
Vrátil se z Anglie, podepisoval vlastně tam tu knihu, pak jsme si už jenom v tu neděli volali, protože se mu pokazila antena a nešla mu televize, takže mi volal, ať zajistím opraváře, takže to bylo kolem 2 hodiny odpoledne a v 9 večer vlastně mi volal kamarád a řekl mi, že kousek jakoby od nás, že leží někdo a má na sobě jakoby věci z Newcastlu. Takže jsem jakoby vystartoval z toho domu, pořád jsem si jako myslel, že to bude jako v klidu, že to není jakoby nic závažného. Přiběhl jsem k jeho baraku nebo přijel autem a doma se normálně svítilo, takže jsem si říkal OK, všechno OK, takže jsem zvonil na něho, volal jsem mu na mobil, nebral. A pak jsem jakoby viděl v dáli, jakoby, jak blikají ty světla, a tam jsem bohužel teda viděl, že to je brácha. Já jsem ty první 2 dny, protože samozřejmě všichni dávali tomu naději, ať doktoři, sestřičky, já jsem tam byl non-stop s ním, jsem tam spal. Takže jsem ještě s ním tak jako jsem si dělal z toho trošku legraci, že nebyl oholený, protože on si na tom vždycky zakládal, aby byl. Tak jsem mu říkal, až se probereš, tak ti to prostě ukážu, jak jsi jako vypadal, že si nebyl ani oholený. Ty první dny moc jakoby s nikým nekomunikoval, ale věděl jsem, že to stejně budu muset dělat, takže pak už jsem jakoby odepisoval na zprávy.
And we were all absolutely devastated that when we got the news what had happened, because he was a great teammate.
That I got a phone call from Dennis Martin, who was very, very concerned and very upset. The emotion in Dennis's voice told me that this was more serious than just collapsing in the street.
I was shocked. But the few days before I met him, suddenly in Newcastle.
Wow, I was just completely taken aback.
It really made Christmas difficult, not just for me, but for his family, and that almost every minute of every day you're praying for some good news, hoping he was incredibly fit. I mean, a big, strong, the fittest player I ever saw in 23 years in professional football. So it's hard to picture something like that would happen to him.
A ve středu šel na velké vyšetření, kdy mu vlastně zkoušeli, jestli mu jakoby prochází krev jakoby do toho mozku. Tam se zjistilo, že už jako ne, takže vlastně primářka mi řekla, že už jakoby nastala u něho mozková smrt. My jsme ještě jakoby s jeho dcerou a s mojí mámkou ještě řešili, že bychom ty jeho orgány dali někomu. No ale ještě nastala jedna taková věc, že nám řekli, že můžeme ještě vyzkoušet jakoby poslední úplně variantu, že ho zkusíme jakoby odpojit, no a to bylo 29. a dopadlo to, jak to dopadlo. No.
I think it was Les or Philippe Albert. Have you heard the news? I say no. I said, Pavel is gone. What do you mean gone? I said, but he's gone. I couldn't believe because we're still very young. I mean, you know, I almost died in 2016 also with a sudden death attack. And you don't expect, especially when you have been in the sports industry for so many years, that you can, you know, go like that. It's a sad thing.
At the end of December, that unfortunately he'd passed away, and then it was, you know, I need to go and see Milan and the family, and need to go and pay my respects and respects on behalf of the football club for the influence he had on me as a young man. To such a degree, I wouldn't be academy director at Newcastle United now without Pavel Srníčka.
My jsme vlastně dělali celkem 3 rozloučení. První bylo ve Vítkovicích, to bylo jakoby pro fanoušky, hlavně teda místních jakoby baníků a lidi, kteří ho jakoby znali. A samozřejmě přijeli i kluci ze Sparty, což jako bylo super. Přivezli jakoby věnec a položili ho někam na zem. A pak přišlo jakoby to tvrdé jádro baníků, přinesli taky jako věnec, položili to vedle té Sparty. Tak to bylo hodně silné.
Newcastle a fanoušci se rozloučili s Pavlem 12. ledna před zápasem s Manchesterem United.
The death at the horribly early age of 47 of former goalkeeper Pavel Srníček. His brother Milan is here ahead of a memorial service in the city tomorrow. This is the wider congregation's opportunity to show their appreciation of a man they came to consider as one of their own.
Was a true gentleman. The thoughts of everyone at Newcastle United are with Pavel's family at this sad time.
Well, by remembering Pavel Srníček, his brother Milan wearing his old Newcastle #1 top.
Dneska je to o něco lepší. Sice když jsme šli tady do těch útrop, tak se mi to zase trošku vrátilo. Když jsem jakoby přišel už, tak začali Pavel i se Geordie a bylo to jako nádherné, no, ale bohužel jako smutné.
Pavel left us all only a few days after this picture was taken. And the fact that we're here 10 years to remember him, it's nice to have him back with us. Very special man, very much missed by us all, so I think it's lovely to have him with us. Yeah. Pavel is a Geordie.
One word. I'd probably say beautiful.
The human for me is very real, very friendly, you know.
Really, really beautiful person, really, I would say.
A fantastic, genuine person.
Too intelligent, and I use another word, too honest.
A legend,